Welcome to Psyche Talks. Today we're diving deep into, well, the dynamics of power and influence, how we all navigate this complex social world.
Mm.
Our main source for this is Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Now, it's got some sometimes unsettling strategies, but always fascinating, about gaining and keeping control.
It really does. It holds up a mirror to some aspects of human interaction that maybe we don't always like to acknowledge.
Right, so we've pulled out a bunch of these laws, looked at the historical examples, the interpretations, and our mission today is really to unpack some core ideas. Try and understand the psychology underneath it all.
Yeah, hopefully giving you, the listener, a kind of fresh lens on the power plays you see, at work, at home, everywhere, really.
Exactly, because these laws, they tap into some pretty fundamental stuff, don't they? Like status, ego.
Absolutely. Our vulnerabilities, the social maneuvering, we all kind of do, consciously or not.
Okay, so let's jump in. Law number one, never outshine the master. Sounds a bit counterintuitive, maybe.
It can seem that way. But the core idea, as the source explains it, is that people in charge often feel insecure. And if you, even unintentionally, make them look less brilliant or capable, well, that can be dangerous.
So it's about their perception, not your actual intent.
Precisely. It hits that core need for competence, for feeling superior. If a subordinate shines too brightly, it can trigger those insecurities.
The examples help here, like Galileo with Medici's.
Ah, yes. Classic.
He didn't just present his discoveries. He flattered them, linked the stars to their family, made them look brilliant by association.
Masterful, really. It was like reflected glory.
Yeah.
His amazing discoveries boosted their prestige. His success became theirs, publicly.
Smart. But then you contrast that with someone like Fouquet under Louis XIV.
Right. The finance minister who was maybe a bit too obvious about his wealth and talent.
Yeah. And what happened? Replaced by someone much less flamboyant.
Or the tragic story of Astor Manfredi, a young prince, apparently naturally charming, talented,
But Cesar Borgia, who was notoriously vain.
felt inadequate just by comparison, and Manfredi ended up imprisoned, then dead. Stark contrast.
So it wasn't that Fouquet or Manfredi weren't capable. It was how their capabilities were perceived by the master as threats.
Exactly. A threat to the master's ego, their sense of control.
So the takeaway strategy is flatter the boss, make them look smarter, even give them credit for your ideas.
That's the advice, essentially. It sounds maybe cynical, but it's presented as a strategic way to navigate. Downplaying your strengths isn't weakness, it's savvy.
Making your success seem like it's thanks to their brilliant guidance.
You got it. Prioritizing their sense of security to ultimately help your own position. Subtle, but effective in hierarchies.
Okay, moving on. Law 3. Conceal your intentions. This feels more overtly strategic, maybe deceptive.
Well, the rationale is clear. If people don't know your real goal, they can't effectively block you. It keeps them off balance.
Prevents them from preparing a defense, right?
And the tactics involve things like decoys, red herrings, actively misleading people.
The book uses Otto von Bismarck. He wanted war with Austria, needed German unification.
But he gave the speech suggesting he was against war, completely concealed his real aim to get the political clout he needed.
Wow, that's quite the long game, playing everyone like that.
It was a pretty brilliant strategic deception. He kept his opponents guessing, underestimating him, served his ultimate goal.
Then there's that Khan, the yellow kid one.
Yeah, the fake lodge sale.
That was just a smokescreen, wasn't it? To distract the target, Giesel, from the real scam, the rigged boxing match.
Exactly. Giesel got so focused on this seemingly plausible, if a bit odd, property deal.
That he completely missed the obvious flaws in the boxing setup.
Perfect misdirection. The decoy totally occupied his attention, blinding him to the actual deception. Shows how powerful a well-placed distraction can be.
Okay, Law 5 shifts gears. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. This feels fundamental.
Absolutely. Reputation is like your social currency. It's the cornerstone of power, Greene argues. A strong one can intimidate, win battles before they even start.
The story of General Zhuge Liang, the sleeping dragon. That's amazing.
Isn't it? Facing this huge army with barely any troops.
And he just opens the gates, lowers the banners, sits there playing his lute.
And his reputation for being this incredibly clever strategist was so strong
that the enemy general, Sima Yi, got spooked. Thought it was a trap.
Exactly. Feared an ambush and ordered a full retreat. Didn't even engage. Reputation alone won the day.
And Liang had built that reputation over years, right? Like identifying a fake deserter, stuff like that.
Precisely. It wasn't just luck. It was carefully cultivated. It became his most powerful weapon.
So the insight is appearances matter massively. People judge you based on your rep.
Yeah, and those judgments shape how they interact with you. So actively managing and protecting that reputation is vital. It deflects attacks, helps you achieve things.
It's like building your own personal brand in a way.
That's a good way to put it. Crafting the narrative around yourself.
Law 6 then takes that idea further. Court attention at all costs. It's not just good reputation, it's any attention.
Well, the argument is that being ignored is like being powerless. In a crowded world, you need to stand out. Create a memorable image.
Even if some of the attention is negative.
Yeah, even notoriety can be useful, apparently. As long as people are talking about you, you remain relevant. You occupy mental space.
Mata Hari is the example here.
She basically invented this whole exotic persona, right?
Yeah, constantly changing her story, using mystery to fascinate Parisian society.
And it worked. Whether people admired her or suspected her, they were talking about her. That buzz, that notoriety was key to her fame and influence.
Because enigma draws attention, especially when everything else feels familiar.
Exactly. Creates anticipation, keeps people intrigued.
Okay, Law 7. This one feels a bit ruthless. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more controversial ones, ethically speaking. But the principle is about efficiency and leverage.
Using other people's skills and effort to boost your own power.
Right. Why do everything yourself when you can harness others' talents? The controversial part is the second clause.
Always take the credit.
The rationale given is that taking the credit makes you seem, well, almost godlike in your power and ability, more capable than you might actually be on your own.
And the source mentions people like Tesla, who did amazing work but didn't always get the recognition.
Exactly. It highlights that often uncomfortable truth about how credit gets assigned. It's not always fair. The law just points out the strategic advantage of making sure achievements are linked to your name.
Even if others did the heavy lifting.
Right. It's about controlling the narrative of accomplishment.
So the strategy is finding people with the right skills, hiring them, or, well, just using their work.
It's presented as finding complementary talents. Whether you employ them or, yes, sometimes appropriate their work, the goal is building your influence through collective effort while maintaining that image of individual brilliance.
Like strategic delegation on steroids, maybe?
Kind of. Outsourcing talent and creativity, but ensuring the final applause comes your way.
Let's shift to Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. Wow. Victim.
Yeah, the language is stark, but the idea is using seemingly positive actions like honesty or generosity, but strategically, to lower someone's guard.
Like a Trojan horse of niceness.
Something like that. A sincere-seeming act can break down the defenses of even really suspicious people, creating an opening.
The example of Count Victor Lustig conning Al Capone is wild.
It really is. Lustig takes Capone's money, promising to double it.
Then comes back, says he failed, and gives the original money back.
Exactly. Capone was apparently so surprised by this honesty from a con man.
That he actually gave Lustig more money, sort of as a reward for being honest.
Yeah, a smaller amount, but it showed Lustig had gained his trust. That single act of selective honesty completely disarmed Capone and paved the way for later exploitation.
But there's a catch, right? The law warns about insincerity.
Big time. If the target sniffs out the manipulation, it backfires badly. Can create intense hatred. The honesty or generosity has to seem genuine.
High risk, high reward kind of strategy. Needs finesse.
Definitely.
Very delicate.
Okay, Law 20. Pose as a friend, but work as a spy. Gathering intel discreetly.
Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
This law advocates for getting that knowledge subtly, by building relationships, getting close to people, but with a hidden agenda.
Not exactly genuine friendship, then.
No, it's instrumental. The goal is gathering valuable insights without raising any red flags.
And the techniques are things like listening closely to casual remarks, probing insecurities gently.
Yeah, maybe planting a bit of info to see how they react, testing loyalty in veiled ways.
The example of King Khosroes II of Persia is intense, fabricating secrets to test his courtiers.
It sounds extreme, but it highlights the lengths some might go to understand who's truly loyal. It wasn't just about secrets, it was about understanding character, reliability. Who could he really trust?
Okay, let's talk presentation. Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Ah, the power of mystique. The idea here is that if something looks easy, it seems more impressive, more magical, almost.
Like you're just naturally brilliant.
Exactly. Revealing all the sweat and practice, the toil, it can kind of diminish the awe factor, makes it seem achievable by anyone with enough effort.
Houdini is the perfect example.
Absolutely. His escape seemed impossible, defied logic,
Yeah.
and he never revealed his methods.
Which led people to think maybe he had, like, supernatural powers.
Precisely. That mystery was a huge part of his appeal. He cultivated it.
Even when that other magician, Cleopini, tried to expose him.
Yeah, Houdini outsmarted him brilliantly. Secretly changed the handcuff combination Cleopini thought he knew. Made the escape look even more effortless and baffling. Maintained that illusion of mastery.
So appearing graceful, at ease, even when you've worked incredibly hard, makes you seem almost godlike.
That's the idea presented. Conceal the effort, enhance the mystique.
Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. This is about limiting choices, right?
It's about framing. You present opponents or targets with a limited set of choices. But here's the kicker. All the choices benefit you in some way.
Gives them the illusion of control, maybe?
Exactly. They feel like they're deciding, but you've already rigged the game.
Sherman's march through Georgia, dividing his army, that kept the Confederates guessing where he'd strike. Limited their defensive options.
Right. They had to split their forces, couldn't effectively counter him, or think about trial lawyers.
The questions that trap you no matter how you answer.
Yeah, have you stopped beating your wife? Type questions. Either answer is bad, it controls the witness's options, boxes them in.
Psychologically, if people feel they choose their own path, even a bad one,
They're more likely to submit or accept the outcome, less likely to blame the person who dealt the cards.
Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. This feels very relevant today.
Oh, absolutely. People often prefer a comforting lie to a harsh truth. Escapism is powerful.
The source uses the example of Venice in decline.
Yeah. Instead of facing the hard reality and doing the difficult work needed to recover.
People got swept up in alchemy, the fantasy of turning lead into gold.
Exactly. The promise of sudden magical wealth and a return to glory was just more appealing than the grind of actual solutions. The fantasy offered hope, however illusory.
So those who can tap into these collective fantasies promise grand transformations.
They can gain enormous influence. They offer an escape from reality that many people crave.
Law 33 is blunt. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Find their weakness.
Yeah, it's pretty direct. Everyone has a vulnerability, according to this law. An insecurity, a hidden desire, an emotional soft spot.
And the idea is to find it, to use it.
To find it, understand it, and then leverage it. Use it to gain influence or control.
The art dealer, Lord Duveen, and Arabella Huntington.
Right, he figured out she craved social validation, recognition from the elite.
So he played on that, made her feel like buying his art would give her that status.
Precisely. He appealed directly to that core insecurity, that thumbscrew. And it worked. He made huge sales.
That need for validation, a powerful one.
Very powerful. And often quite exploitable if you know how to push that button.
Okay, Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. It's about projection.
Completely. How you carry yourself dictates how others see you and treat you.
Yeah.
Project confidence, authority, even grandeur.
Yeah.
And people tend to respond accordingly.
Even if you don't technically have the rank or status.
Especially then, maybe.
Yeah.
Columbus fabricating a noble background?
Yeah, to seem more destined for greatness, command more respect.
Exactly. Or Henry VIII facing the Pope about his annulment. He refused to back down, refused to seem weak or negotiable.
Projected unwavering power.
And that projection, that royal bearing, influenced the situation. Acting regally inspires respect, makes people think twice before challenging you.
Law 35. Master the art of timing. Wait, the outline says this is about ignoring things. The description seems off. Let me check the source. Okay, Law 36 is about timing. Law 35 is actually despise the free lunch. My mistake in reading the notes earlier. Let's cover 35 properly. Despise the free lunch.
Ah, right. That makes sense. This one's about being wary of gifts and favors.
Because they often come with strings attached. Hidden obligations.
Exactly. Nothing is truly free. Accepting gifts can put you in someone's debt, subtly shift the power dynamic. It can be a form of manipulation.
The source mentions different types of givers to watch out for.
Yeah, like the bargain demon always looking for a deal that benefits them, the sadist who uses gifts to inflict pain or obligation, the indiscriminate giver who creates confusion.
That story about the Duke and Duchess of Marlborough and their architect, Van Brugh, that sounds messy.
Oh, it was. Constant fighting over money, payments withheld. It highlights how financial games, this kind of sadism with money and obligation, can be incredibly destructive. The free house ended up costing Van Brugh dearly.
So the takeaway is, pay your own way. Avoid entanglement through gifts.
Pretty much. Maintain your independence. Recognize that generosity can be a mask for control.
Okay, now, Law 37. Create compelling spectacles using visuals and symbols.
Yes, humans are visual creatures. Grand displays, powerful symbols. They capture attention, stir emotions, bypass rational thought sometimes.
Diane de Poitiers using the black and white symbol.
Right. She linked herself visually to the king, used symbols associated with the moon goddess Diana. It created this powerful, memorable image, elevated her status.
Symbols rally people, distract them maybe.
Definitely. They create a sense of shared identity, focus attention, and can make people forget about less pleasant realities. Spectacle is a powerful tool of influence.
Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others. Blend in.
Sort of. It's about the danger of flaunting unconventional ideas or behaviors. Making others feel insecure or inferior by being too different can lead to punishment, isolation.
So outwardly conform. Keep your original thoughts for trusted friends.
That's the advice. Nurture the common touch in public. Don't make waves unnecessarily.
Galileo again comes up here. Initially, he played the courtier.
But later became more confrontational with his ideas, challenging the church directly, and faced the consequences.
So adaptability is key. Know when to blend in.
Right. Save your battles for when they truly matter, and understand the prevailing norms.
Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish, using emotion against opponents.
Exactly. If you can make your enemies angry, fearful, vain, or overly emotional,
Yeah.
while you remain calm, you gain a huge advantage.
Emotion clouds judgment.
Precisely. They act rashly, make mistakes. You stay cool, observe, and exploit those mistakes.
Hail Selassie manipulating Ras Gugsa into rebellion by playing on his pride.
Yeah, Selassie apparently made Gugsa feel slighted, stoked his ambition and pride, until Gugsa acted recklessly, which allowed Selassie to crush him and consolidate power.
So, triggering strong emotions, pride, vanity, love, hate, can make opponents lose control.
And when they lose control, you gain it.
Law 41 seems important. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. Don't try to follow a legend.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
If you follow a really famous or successful predecessor or parent, whatever, you'll constantly be compared and often found wanting.
What comes first often seems better, more original.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the advice is, don't try to replicate their success. Establish your own name, your own identity, change course, distinguish yourself.
Like Alexander the Great deliberately being different from his father, Philip.
Right. Or JFK cultivating that youthful, vigorous image, contrasting sharply with Eisenhower. It's about creating your own space, not living in someone else's shadow. Reinvent yourself.
Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Go after the leader.
A classic strategy, especially in conflict. Neutralize the key figure, the source of power or inspiration, and the group often falls into disarray.
Like Cortez capturing Montezuma or Pizarro capturing Atahualpa.
Perfect examples. Taking out the leader instantly destabilized vast empires, created chaos the conquerors could exploit. Removing the central figure breaks the group's cohesion.
Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. Persuasion over force.
Long-term, yes. Coercion breeds resentment. Seduction, persuasion, winning people over emotionally and intellectually, that creates more lasting loyalty and support.
It's about understanding psychology, right? What motivates people?
Deeply. You need to understand individual psychologies, appeal to their emotions, build genuine connections if possible, build a broad base of support.
Marie Antoinette is used as a negative example. Failing to connect.
Right. Her perceived aloofness, her inability or unwillingness to win the affection or at least understanding of the French people contributed significantly to her downfall. She didn't work on their hearts and minds.
Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Mimicking your opponent.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. Mirroring their actions can confuse them, mock them subtly, make them feel understood and yet unsettled. It can neutralize their strategy by showing you see right through it.
The source mentions different effects. Neutralizing, narcissistic, moral.
Right. You can use it to show them how they appear to others, moral, flatter them by imitating narcissistic, or just throw their tactics back at them, neutralizing. Alcibiades apparently used it masterfully with the Athenians.
But you have to be careful. It can seem like mockery.
Definitely. Overdo it or use it crudely, and it can feel like betrayal or deep insult. Creates resentment, needs subtlety.
Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. Gradualism.
Pretty much. People might say they like change, but too much innovation too quickly is disruptive, traumatic even. We're creatures of habit.
So introduce changes slowly. Frame them as improvements on the past.
Exactly. Respect old traditions, use familiar language and symbols even when introducing something new. Disguise the novelty to make it palatable. Machiavelli talked about the need for force when people resist change and yearn for the old ways.
Law 46. Never appear too perfect. This relates back to envy, doesn't it?
It does. Seeming flawless, always successful, never making mistakes, it breeds envy, and envy can be dangerous, turning people against you, making you a target.
So admit some flaws. Downplay talent sometimes. Share credit.
That's the advice. Make your success seem less threatening, less unattainable. Maybe hint that others benefit from your success too. Admit to harmless weaknesses or vices to seem more human, less intimidating.
And watch out for disguised envy, like excessive praise.
Or excessive criticism, yeah. Both can mask underlying resentment.
Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. Don't get carried away.
Crucial one. Victory is often the most dangerous moment. Arrogance sets in, you overreach, push too far, create new enemies unnecessarily.
Cyrus the Great is the example.
Yeah.
Initially restrained, but after conquering Babylon.
His ambition became unchecked. He pushed further, eventually leading to his downfall. Didn't know when to stop.
So set clear goals, and once you achieve them, consolidate. Don't keep pushing just because you can.
Right. Know your limits. Define victory, achieve it, then stop.
And finally, Law 48. Assume formlessness. Be adaptable, unpredictable.
Like water, as the saying goes. By being fluid, adaptable, unpredictable, hard to grasp, you confuse and control opponents. They can't figure you out, can't pin you down.
T.E. Lawrence in the desert. Using the vastness, the shifting sands, hit-and-run tactics.
Exactly. He mirrored the formlessness of the desert itself. Made it impossible for the more rigid Turkic army to counter effectively. Became an enigma.
Psychologically, it's about not being easily defined, being emotionally detached.
Yes. Don't let opponents understand your patterns or your emotional triggers. Present a constantly shifting, adaptable exterior. Take nothing personally. Be formless.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to take in. These laws really do offer a potent, sometimes uncomfortable way to look at power dynamics.
They certainly do. Whether you see them as deeply cynical, or maybe just brutally realistic and insightful,
Yeah.
or a bit of both.
Understanding them can definitely equip you better to see what's going on beneath the surface in interactions.
Yeah, to recognize the strategies others might be using, consciously or not, and maybe even to navigate things more effectively yourself.
We hope this deep dive has sparked some thought, maybe offered some surprising perspectives on the power plays all around us.
Remember, knowledge is power, especially self-knowledge and understanding the motivations of others.
Thank you for your support and for listening.